Chapter 3. With the sage, Visvamrita. Visvamrita walked ahead of the two princes, who each carried a bow in hand and had swords strapped to their waists. Wearing on their shoulders 2 large quivers of arrows, the princes looked like a pair of 3-headed serpents, following behind the sage. Their brilliant jewels set off their dark complexions. The 2 resplendent boys added luster even to the shining sage, Visvamrita, as the 2 gods, Skanda and Ganapati, adorn the immortal Shiva. After covering about 12 miles along the beautiful southern bank of the Sarayu, they arrived at a stretch of soft grass, sheltered by trees. Visvamrita stopped and turned towards Rama and Lakshman. "Sit here comfortably and sip a little sanctified water for purification. I will now tell you the mystical mantras known as Bala and Atibala. These hymns will confer upon you freedom from all fatigue and fever. Indeed, they will release you from hunger and thirst and will even prevent decrepitude. While you mutter these sacred spells, none on earth will be your equal in either battle, intellectual judgment, or argument. Bala and Atibala are the sources of all wisdom, being the daughters of the self-born creator, Brahma." Visvamrita looked upon the brothers' faces, and he felt a deep affection for them. Although he knew they were not ordinary men, out of love, he wanted to serve them, acting as their teacher and guide. For their part, the princes felt an equal affection for the sage, and they gladly reciprocated his love, accepting him as their guru. The sage positioned himself near the seated princes, and, after sipping holy water for purification, held up his right palm and began chanting the mantras. With a cheerful expression, Rama and Lakshman received the 2 hymns from the sage. When the instruction was complete, they rested for the night on the bank of the river, enjoying the cool breeze that wafted gently across the water. Shortly before dawn, Visvamrita, who had remained awake in meditation all night, awoke the 2 princes, calling out to them, "O Rama and Lakshman, O tigers among men, the sun approaches the eastern horizon. Rise up now and perform your ablutions. We must proceed." The brothers immediately rose and bathed in the river. After their prayers and meditations, they approached Visvamrita and bowed at his feet. The sage, having bestowed blessings upon the boys, again led the way as the sun rose upon another cloudless day. Soon they saw the river Ganges, where it met the Sarayu. On the bank of the Ganges were many simple dwellings made from leaves and mud, in which there lived a community of ascetics. The princes asked Visvamrita about the hermitage. The sage, remembering the history of the site, laughed heartily and told them the story of how Cupid had once come to assail Shiva here. A very long time ago, the god of love had a human form. On one occasion, he had been bold enough to fire his arrows of love at the unconquerable Shiva. The powerful Shiva, who had been absorbed in deep meditation at the hermitage, became infuriated and gazed at Cupid with his third eye. A searing flame shot out, reducing Cupid's body to ashes. From then on, Cupid became known as Ananga, the bodiless one, and the land there became known as Anga. Finishing the tale, Visvamrita said, "All these sages are disciples of the glorious Shiva. Let us halt for the night here and converse with these mystics, O princes." While Visvamrita spoke, the ascetics dwelling in the hermitage sensed from a distance the approach of the sage and the princes. Realizing who they were, those worshippers of Shiva, who himself always worships Vishnu, felt happy in heart and came out quickly to greet their exalted guests. Having been graciously received, the three travelers performed their evening rituals and took a simple meal of forest fare. Visvamrita entertained the assembly with ancient tales of heroes and sages of the past. The following morning, after crossing the Ganges in a boat provided by the ascetics, Visvamrita and the princes came to a vast, desolate region. On all sides were huge trees stripped of their foliage. The ground was laid waste, and a wind gusted, carrying sand and debris which lashed their faces. The cries of wild animals and vultures sounded there, and even the sky above was dark and overcast. Rama and Lakshmana looked around. What had happened? The land so far had been beautiful and verdant. Rama asked Visvamrita, "This forest ahead appears inaccessible and foreboding. What is this land inhabited with fierce beasts of prey and presenting such a terrible aspect?" Smiling even in the face of that fearful scene, Visvamrita replied, "My dearest Rama, a long time ago this was the site of two prosperous kingdoms built by the gods. It came to pass one day that Indra became afflicted with the sin of killing a Brahmin. Overcome with impurity, Indra sought the powerful rishis, the most exalted of the Brahmins, as his refuge. They performed rituals of purification and bathed his body with Ganges water, which fell here on this tract of land. Pleased with this land for receiving his impurities, Indra blessed it by saying, 'Here will rise two great kingdoms, which will flourish for many years and will be known as Malada and Karusa.'" The party had stopped at the edge of a forest of bare trees as Visvamrita spoke. The way ahead was virtually enveloped by darkness. Terrible sounds emanated from the forest. The sage continued, telling the brothers about the land. Sometime after Indra had founded the cities, there came to that region a Yaksha woman named Tataka, as powerful as 1,000 elephants, and able to assume any form she desired. She was the mother of Maricha, who now assailed Visvamrita's hermitage. Fearsome and filled with malice towards all beings, Tataka constantly ravaged that land, and thus no one lived there. Although it was once the site of flourishing cities, it was now almost impossible to even approach. Turning towards the princes, Visvamrita said, "The time has come, the time has now come for the demise of the evil Tataka. You two princes should follow me to the place where she resides. Search her out and end her life immediately." Rama replied with a smile, "Being a woman, O sage, how can Tataka have such power?" Visvamrita knew that the virtuous Rama was hesitant to attack a woman. But Tataka was no ordinary woman. The sage described her background. She had been born as the beautiful daughter of a great and powerful Yaksha named Suketu. As a youth, she was given a boon by Brahma that she would possess the strength of 1,000 elephants. She married the famous Yaksha Sunda, who was eventually killed as a result of a curse made by the sage Agastya. When Tataka learned of her husband's death, she became infuriated with Agastya, and along with her son Maricha, she rushed toward the sage, desiring to kill him. The sage stood his ground. He said to the two advancing Yakshas, "As you act so wickedly, may you both become demons. O Tataka, you shall lose your attractive form and instead become an ugly, man-eating Rakshasi." Agastya then vanished from the spot. Visvamrita raised his hand and indicated the path ahead of them. Tataka had turned the entire region into a desolate forest by her malevolent presence. She was always angry, and would attack anyone who approached the area. Having told the brothers Tataka's history, the sage reassured them, although the scriptures state that a woman should always be protected and never attacked, in this case you need not fear any sin. The killing of Tataka is necessary for the good of society. One wishing to protect the afflicted must sometimes perform even a seemingly sinful act. This is the eternal duty of kings. O Rama, you should not hesitate. Citing other historical examples of kings and gods who had killed evil women, Visvamrita urged Rama to quickly kill Tataka. Rama accepted the sage's order and grasped his golden bow. Standing nearby for combat, he said to Visvamrita, "My father instructed me on leaving Ayodhya that your order should be followed without hesitation. In obedience then to both his and your command, I shall now face the fierce Rakshasi. I wish to do good to the Brahmins and cows in this region, as well as to satisfy your holy self. Please point out to me the whereabouts of that wicked demon." Visvamrita led them to a little further into the wilderness. Rama twanged his bowstring, which produced a terrific sound, filling the four quarters. All the forest animals were terrified by the noise. Tataka herself was stunned and overcome with anger. Who had dared to challenge her? Whoever it was, they would soon regret their foolishness. She came out from her cave and ran towards the source of the sound, screaming horribly. Seeing her at a distance, emerging from the forest in a terrible fury, monstrous in size and awful in appearance, Rama said to Lakshman, "Behold, my dear brother, this formidable and fearful Yaksha woman. The very sight of this sinful wretch would break the hearts of the timid. Watch me put her to flight with my sharp arrows. In truth, I do not really want to kill her, as she is a woman. I shall put an end to her strength by rendering her immobile and powerless, cutting from her body her hands and feet." As Rama spoke, Tataka rushed towards him, roaring, with her arms upraised, uttering a powerful mantra. Visvamrita checked her progress, calling out, "May victory attend the Ayodhya princes." Creating a swirling cloud of dust, Tataka confounded the princes and disappeared. With her mystic powers of illusion, she employed numerous conjuring tricks. She assumed many forms, one after another. Sometimes she appeared in front of the brothers, then she would be above them. Then again she would suddenly appear behind them. One moment she appeared as a furious horned animal. In the next moment she became a terrible-looking fiend. Then she swooped down upon them as a great clawed bird. Hurling upon the brothers huge rocks and boulders, she screamed fearfully. Rama flew into a rage. He parried the rocks with a shower of shafts from his bow. He shot arrows with blinding speed. His bow appeared to be always bent into a circle. Taking razor-headed arrows, he severed Tataka's 2 arms, even as she came running towards him. Lakshman also became furious. He released sharp arrows with deadly accuracy and sliced off her nose and ears. The Yaksha woman disappeared and rose up to the sky. Even though deprived of her arms, she used her sorcery to throw down more massive trees and boulders. Remaining invisible, she moved hither and thither, screaming all the while. Visvamrita saw the boys mystified by the Rakshasi's illusory powers. He realized they were holding back because Tataka was a woman. The sage called to the brothers, "Have done with your tenderness. This woman should not be spared. Sinful and wicked, she thoroughly deserves death at your hands. Act swiftly to end her life before nightfall, as the demons are always more powerful after sunset. Rama then showered his skill. Rama then showed his skill at archery. He released arrows capable of striking an invisible target by seeking out sound. Reciting mantras as he let them go, Rama covered Tattaka in a network of arrows. Those arrows reduced the falling stones to powder. They pierced the Rakshasi, and she screamed in pain. She quickly came down to earth again. Tattaka then assumed a vast form and rushed with the force of a tempest towards the two brothers. Rama decided that she should be killed. He quickly fired an arrow imbued with the energy of a thunderbolt. It hit the Rakshasi full in the chest. Tattaka's heart was ripped apart, and with a hideous cry, she fell down, dead. Having watched Rama slay the demoness, the gods, headed by Indra, assembled in the skies and applauded. Celestial flowers rained down on the two princes. Acknowledging the gods' pleasure, Rama and Lakshman modestly bowed their heads. The thousand-eyed Indra said to Visvamrita, "All the gods are gratified with Rama's feat. O holy Brahman, show Rama your affection by giving to him your knowledge of the celestial missiles." A great objective of the gods will soon be accomplished by Rama with the use of these weapons. Indra was considering Vishnu's desire that Ravana and his Rakshasa hordes be annihilated. As he looked upon the mighty Rama, he knew that the time for the destruction of the Rakshasas was imminent. After Indra had spoken, the gods returned to the heavens, and twilight fell. Embracing Rama and Lakshman, Visvamrita said, "Let us remain for the night in this forest. Freed from the curse of Tattaka, it is now rendered so very peaceful and attractive. In the morning we shall continue on to my hermitage." The three of them rested for the night, praised by heavenly bards and singers who had assembled in the canopy of the sky. The next morning Visvamrita remembered Indra's words. He sat the two princes down and faced them. "Steady your minds, O heroes, for I shall now tell you the knowledge of the gods. Mystic weapons. Steady your minds, O heroes, for I shall now tell you the knowledge of the gods' mystic weapons, including even those presided over by the invincible Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu. Equipped with this knowledge, you will be able to forcibly bring under your control even the hosts of gods and demons, including the Gandharvas and Nagas, the powerful celestial serpents." Vishwamrita sat facing the rising sun, and after purifying himself by sipping water and intoning sacred hymns, he began to repeat to Rama a string of mantras capable of invoking the celestial weapons. Calling each weapon by the name of its presiding deity, Vishwamrita delivered to Rama all those divine missiles, thousands in number, and difficult for even the gods to remember in their entirety. As they were called, they came before Rama in their shining ethereal forms. Some appeared like glowing coal, others were smoky, while others were brilliant like the sun or moon. Filled with joy at being called to Rama's service, they stood before him with folded hands and asked for his command. Rama accepted them with affection and asked them to personally appear within his mind whenever he thought of them. The personified missiles replied, "It shall be as you say." Taking leave of Rama, the weapons circumambulating him with respect and returned to their own heavenly abodes. After teaching the brothers the full knowledge of firing and recalling the weapons, Vishwamrita finally said, "The instruction is complete. O glorious princes, we should now continue towards our destination." They moved on from that spot as soon as in the distance a great cluster of trees appearing like a mass of dark clouds on the horizon. As they came closer, they saw it was a beautiful copse containing varieties of flowering and fruit-bearing trees. Sweetly singing birds filled the air, and graceful deer moved about next to rivulets of clear water. Looking at Visvamrita, Rama inquired, "What is the name of this place, so pleasing to the mind? It seems we have arrived at the site of some holy hermitage. Can it be that we have now reached your own abode, O learned Brahmin?" Although possessed of infinite knowledge, Rama had fully assumed the role of Visvamrita's student. He listened attentively as the sage smiled and told him the ancient story of Bali and Indra. Once the immensely powerful King Bali, lord of the demons and enemy of the gods, seized the seat of Indra and began to rule over the universe. Becoming famous throughout all the three worlds of heaven, earth, and hell, he remained in that position for a long time. The gods had become perturbed, and with Indra at their head, they sought out Vishnu. The Lord then appeared as Vamana, accepting the form of a Brahmin boy. On the plea of charity, he took from Bali the three worlds, restoring them again to the gods. Vamana then remained for some time at this hermitage, known as Siddha Ashram, sanctifying it by his presence. Visvamrita concluded, "It is here that I have my dwelling, O Rama. Let us go there now." Taking the two princes by the hand, the sage entered his hermitage. As he walked into the large compound, he resembled a full and cloudless moon, accompanied by two brilliant stars. There were numerous hermits moving about in that grassy enclosure. Some tended sacred fires, while some of the younger ones chopped wood or worked on constructing the large central altar meant for the main sacrifice. In some places, groups of sages sat reciting the Sanskrit hymns of the Vedas, while elsewhere, other sages cleaned and prepared sacrificial paraphernalia. Rama and Lakshmana looked with interest upon the busy scene that greeted them. Despite the bustle, an atmosphere of tranquility prevailed, and the hermits glowed with ascetic power. Seeing that Visvamrita and the princess had arrived, the hermits sprang up and paid their respects. They offered water and forest fruits to the two princes. It was late in the evening, and long shadows stretched across the ground. The sacrifice would begin the next day. On Visvamrita's order, the hermits showed the two boys to a secluded cottage. One of the sages said, "Rest now, for the night and tomorrow, led by Visvamrita, we will go through the ceremony to consecrate our sacrifice. Surely our success is now certain, because we see you two princes before us, equipped with every weapon and shining like the sun." The sages gazed with gratitude at Rama and Lakshmana. They had been afflicted by the Rakshasas for a long time and had prayed for deliverance. In his prayers and meditations, Visvamrita had understood the Lord's plan. The sage had thus gone to Ayodhya, looking for Rama. Now the divine prince had actually come to personally deliver the ascetics from their suffering. As they watched the two boys lie down to sleep, the sages were struck with wonder. In their hearts, they offered worship and praise to Vishnu. Before dawn the next morning, the princes rose and went through their daily rituals. After offering obeisances to Visvamrita, they sat down by the side of the sacrificial altar. Facing the sage with folded hands, Rama asked, "O venerable sir, please tell us when and where we can expect the evil Rakshasas to appear." Visvamrita remained impassive, but the other hermits applauded the boys, seeing their readiness to tackle the demons. One of them replied, "Visvamrita is now observing a vow of silence, which he will keep for the next 6 days and nights, remaining awake throughout. At the end of that period, close to the completion of the sacrifice, the two demons will assail this area with all their force. But be ready, for the treacherous Rakshasas could appear at any time." The princes were eager for a fight. They stood vigilantly by Visvamritra's side as he sat silently meditating upon the sacrificial hymns. Rama leaned on his great bow, which stood almost as tall as him. Lakshman held in his hand a shining blue sword, its golden handle impressed with bright gems. As the sixth night approached and the final rituals were being performed, the sacrificial fire suddenly blazed forth furiously. A loud clamor came from the sky, which was covered over by clouds. Swooping down upon that sacrifice, the two Rakshasa demons, Mricha and Subahu, appeared from the sky. They were accompanied by their fierce and terrible-looking followers. As they spread their sorcery, torrents of blood and pus, as well as large pieces of flesh, fell upon the altar. Blazing fires sprang from the earth, and hot coals flew everywhere. Shrieking horribly, the Rakshasas danced about, wreaking havoc. The hermits fell back, but this time they were not fearful. Visvamrita quickly stood up. It was time for these evil beings to receive their just deserts. They had defiled his sacrifice once too often. They would not do so again. Gathering the other ascetics, Visvamrita moved aside and ordered Rama to attack the Rakshasas. Rama became infuriated upon seeing the scene of devastation. He rushed forward toward the Rakshasas, calling to his brother, "Watch now as I scatter these wicked demons who feed on raw flesh." Even as he spoke, Rama continuously worked his bow. He sent swift arrows in all directions. The Rakshasas were stunned. They had not expected any resistance. Some of them closed quickly on Rama, covering him on all sides. Rama released arrows with deadly accuracy and speed. The Rakshasas were cut to pieces. Rama looked for Mricha. Seeing his huge form nearby, tearing at the sacrificial altar, Rama invoked a celestial weapon. He placed it on his bow, and although still feeling furious, he calmly said to Lakshman, "I shall release the Manava weapon, presided over by the father of the gods, Manu." Rama angrily fired his weapon at the fearsome, roaring Mricha. The demon was struck by the mighty missile, and he was lifted and flung a distance of 800 miles, landing in the ocean. Although reeling and struck senseless by Rama's arrow, Mricha was not killed. Rama looked at Lakshman. "See the force of that weapon, my brother. It easily hurled the demon to a vast distance." Rama and Lakshman continuously discharged flaming arrows at the other Rakshasas. Imbued with mystic power, one arrow expanded into thousands. It appeared as if a continuous line of shafts was leaving Rama's bow, so fast was his movement. The Rakshasas screamed in pain. Some of them vanished, and others fell dead on the ground. Some entered the earth, while others flew into the sky. Regrouping, a large number of the demons rushed down from the sky towards the princes. They hurled lances, iron maces, massive rocks, and blazing coals. Rama and Lakshman stood firm, parrying the that shower of weapons with their arrows. Tightly grasping his golden bow, Rama said to his brother, "Fear not, Lakshman, for I shall now swiftly deal with these blood-sucking demons. They are wicked and merciless, and always given to sinful acts. This indeed shall be the last sacrifice they defile." Rama moved with agility, evading the rocks thrown by the demons. He invoked the weapon presided over by the god of fire, Agni. Fired from Rama's fully extended bow, the weapon hit the Rakshasa Subahu, full upon his chest. His heart torn apart, he fell dead on the ground like an uprooted tree. Rama then invoked the Vayu Astra, the powerful wind weapon. He fired it, and a roaring gale went toward the Rakshasas. They were blown away like so many pieces of dust and debris. Those who were not killed by that weapon fled for their lives. As the clamor of the battle died down, Rama and Lakshman felt their anger subside. They stood holding their bows and looking at Visvamrita. The sage was delighted. He approached the princes. I have accomplished my purpose, O mighty armed heroes. You have perfectly followed your preceptor's order. We can now continue the sacrifice for the good of the people." With tears in his eyes, Visvamrita gazed for some time at the two handsome brothers. He thought of Vishnu's cosmic arrangement. The Lord always protected his worshippers and, for the well-being of the world, ensured that sacrifices could proceed. Overwhelmed with love, the sage finally said to the boys, "Rest peacefully now, for tomorrow we shall leave this place." The many ascetics in the hermitage gathered around to congratulate the brothers. They led them to a spacious cottage near the river. After showing the princes their accommodation, the hermits offered them forest fruits and cooked wild vegetables. Rama and Lakshman graciously accepted their offerings and then laid down for sleep, exhausted by the day's events. The next morning, the princes came before Visvamrita and respectfully asked, "What other order of yours should we now carry out, O best among the Brahmins?" The sage told them of a sacrifice about to be performed by Janaka, the king of Mithila. He wanted to take the princes there, where they would see a magnificent bow owned by Janaka. The strength of that bow was inestimable. It was formerly held by Shiva himself and could not be bent by either gods, Gandharvas, or demons, what to speak of humans. Janaka kept it enshrined in a hall where it was worshipped daily by his priests. "Indeed," said the sage, "the bow can hardly even be gazed upon except by the mighty. The king has declared that any man who bends his bow will win the hand of his daughter Sita, a veritable jewel among women who was born from the earth itself. Let us leave for that place immediately." Vedavati. Visvamrita gave orders to the sages to make ready for the journey. 100 carts were filled largely with sacrificial paraphernalia and yoked to strong asses. At the head of 1,000 rishis, who were all reciting auspicious texts from the scriptures, Visvamrita and the two princes set off towards Mithila, traveling in a northerly direction along the bank of the Ganges. As they left, herds of beasts and flocks of birds, dwelling around the hermitage, began to follow them out of affection. Visvamrita and the other sages addressed the creatures in their own speech and persuaded them to return. They walked for some days, having covered a long distance, and arriving at the bank of the Son River, the sages stopped to rest just before nightfall. The lowing of cattle and the cries of cowherds could be heard all around. As they settled down, the travelers looked across the smooth waters of the river, which glowed orange under the setting sun. During the day, they had passed many flourishing villages and settlements, and seen that the land was farmed and well managed. Rama, seated comfortably among the ascetics, asked Visvamrita where they were. Visvamrita, who had lived thousands of years and knew the history of the entire earth, smilingly began to narrate the story of that land. It was called Kushanaba, after an ancient king of the same name, who was the son of a rishi named Kusha. Kushanaba was Visvamrita's grandfather. Having descended in the line of Kusha, Visvamrita was also known as Kaushika, and he had an elder sister named Kaushiki. After unfailingly serving her rishi husband, she had ascended bodily to heaven and later became the holy river Koshi. Visvamrita had for a long time led a life of asceticism on the bank of that river, by the side of the Himalayas. Because of his desire to perform a sacrifice, he came down to the plains, and it was soon after that he had secured Rama's assistance. The evening passed as Visvamrita told this and other tales. Seeing the onset of night, the sage at last said, "The beasts and birds are buried in sleep. In all the quarters, stand enveloped in darkness. The firmament shines brightly with stars, as though covered with innumerable eyes. Here rises the moon, dispelling the darkness of the world and spreading his soothing rays all around. Fearful hosts of nocturnal fiends are freely roaming here and there. Let us rest, ready for our renewed journey tomorrow. Glorifying Visvamrita, the brothers laid down and courted sleep, awed at the sages' stories. End of chapter 3.